evening, everybody. Let us begin our Dharma talk today by reciting the mantra of the universe in its purity 7 times. Om Nam, Om Nam, Om Nam, Om Nam, Om Nam, Om Nam, Om Nam. Thank you very much. So today we have a wonderful title for our Dharma talk, which is Where Do We Go? And if you were really smart, and why wouldn't we be? First of all, we would have to ask, where did we come from? Because we are already here. We are in this body. Where did we come from? From where? Now, like I said, the other time, when we explored our projected identity, what we think of ourselves, same. Some people believe that we were just, boom, created on one day. Some people believe we came from various planets. Some people believe we were just conglomerated through some evolution throughout millions of years. And we were first these little kind of smudge, and then a little more like cells, and then various types of sea creatures, and then animals, and then even better animals, and then mammals, and then what's the truth? Where is the real truth here? And as sincere, clear human beings, just like with our identity, we can always say that we don't know. And this don't know is not really a lack of information. It's a lack of projections. So we truly, sincerely don't know. Once you stop believing your thinking, once you stop believing your projections or your illusions, the world, including yourself, will change. Because you get real, as the Americans would say. Just get real, man. Come back to reality. And in a great way, in a wonderful way, this don't know is correct. Where our bodies came from, not so important, okay? Whether it came from mammals, or mud and water, or ashes and dust, that's not so important. But where did this mind come from? Where did our mind, our thinking come from? And that's what we can really observe when we do this clear Zen meditation practice. So, where did we come from? Where did our mind come from? How were we born in the first place if we believe in reincarnation, and we don't have to? How did that happen? So, we don't know. But if we want to go beyond incarnations, name and form, becoming and then disappearing, and we really have to see where this ends up. And don't know is also correct here. Because there are many, many theories. What will happen after we die? Or what will happen to this earth? Or what will happen to this entire galaxy? To the entire universe where we are living? Most of you have seen these very interesting pictures that you see the street, and you go 10 times higher, 10 times higher, 10 times higher, 10 times, 10 times higher, and then when it stops after 28 zeros, we are in empty space. Likewise, you can go into matter, you look at the hand, and you come 10 times closer, 10 times closer, and when it reaches 10 minus 28, something really interesting happens. You're also in empty space. Because even the last quarks disappear. Very interesting. So, between this, we see, we hear, taste, smell, touch, and think. Beyond that, only emptiness. Okay? So, where we come from, we sincerely do not know because we cannot go back in time. Where we go, we also don't know because we cannot go forward in time. We can only be here and now. That's real. Everything else is illusion. Now, I would like to quote Zen Master Seung San when the most important teaching which left his mouth was direction, direction, direction. Not some kind of technique, not some kind of book teaching, not any kind of thought pattern or system. Direction. Direction, direction, direction. Okay? Because where do you go? Right after this Dharma talk, where do you go? After you finish your active life, how will you spend your senior time? After you finish your life in this body, where do you go? Okay? This is a supremely important point. So if our mind is correct this moment, then it will always be correct and clear. If this moment become filled with anger, desire and ignorance, then your projected future will also be like that. Because the moment, seemingly, to our reckoning, comes from the past. And this moment, seemingly, results in the future. Whereas, by now, if you followed through the logic, at least the logic of the last 3 Dharma talks, we know that past, present and future, they do not exist. We think it up. We make it with our consciousness. And very, very great physicists, artists, practitioners, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, prophets, they all pinpoint that in their own way. That we live in the illusory world of 3 dimensions in time and basically 3 dimensions in space and 2 dimensions in time. Because it's a line, it's just a line between the past, present and future. That's our illusion of time and space. It exists in this way because we have this consciousness operating in this way. If we had a different type of consciousness, we would have a different notion of time and space. And there was somebody really clear, and I quoted him sometimes, who found this out, and he was not Buddhist, he was not Taoist, he was not Hindu, he was any religious person. He was one of the greatest minds in the West of the 20th century, and his name was Albert Einstein. He found that. Okay? So, direction. Where do we go? And to answer that question, we should really examine this moment. How clear are we right now in this moment? Because all the karma of the past results in this moment, and all the karma that you make now results in the perceived or projected future. So if you take away the past and take away the future and take away the projected present, you have just the moment. And if the moment is clear, then your projected past, present and future is also clear. If the moment is not clear, then the whole dimensions of time and space are also not clear. So if you go beyond duality, if you do not attach to any sense of identity, then, as I explained last time, you can always perceive your situation, relationship and function and become one with the universe. That's when this little drop of water returns to this huge ocean and becomes the ocean. Okay? It's a very important point. Some people ask me, Sunim, when you practice, do you lose your individuality? And I said, I don't know. In don't know mind, there is no I or no I. There is no existing or lost individuality. In fact, if you have a lost individuality, then you haven't lost it. Okay. So, that's about our individual or practicing direction. And I hope it's clear enough so that people understand the importance of practicing. Because your problems will not be solved in the future. And your problems do not come from the past. Okay? They exist right here, right now, because of our minds, because of our thoughts, feelings, perceptions, impulses, and various consciousness, and the connection between us. Okay? So if you look at life, most problems, still, in this very materialistic world which we created, still, most problems are based on human relationships. Most of them. Okay? So how do we fix that? It's not enough that you think only about yourself. Even if you practice, and even if you want to become really clear just by yourself, you have to want to save all beings from suffering, not just you, not just yourself. Because without that, impossible. If we don't reach out to actually help another person, help the world, it's impossible. Okay? One of the major realizations of practicing is that your problem immediately affects the world, and the world's problem, or any human being's problem, immediately affects you. Okay? I give you a story about time. It's a very good Chinese story. So a long time ago, in China there was a great sutra master called Dongsan. And he was the master of the Diamond Sutra. And he heard that in the southern part of the country, monks just sit facing the white wall, don't study sutras, only eat, sleep, and meditate, and they claim to get enlightenment. So Dongsan got really upset and said, I will go south, I will teach these monks the correct way, the Diamond Sutra way, so that they would attain correct enlightenment. So he goes, and at that time, there was no train, no bus, no airplane. There was no chance to take the KTX. Wow. So he walked. And when he was walking for quite a few weeks, he got really tired. So he was very happy to see a little inn, a little restaurant with some residential or hostel rooms attached. And he entered. And in most of these restaurants, there are old women, the ajumma, serving. And then he says, well, good afternoon, I would like some lunch, I'm really hungry. Then the ajumma, who was actually a bosanin, came out and said, oh, Venerable, it's so wonderful that you come and with your esteemed presence bring light to my humble restaurant. Where do you come from, if I may? I come from the north. I'm the Diamond Sutra master. I'm going to teach those lazy monks in the south what is correct practice, what is correct enlightenment. Oh, you're a wonderful Diamond Sutra master. I have not much understanding of the Diamond Sutra, but I would like to ask you one question. Oh, any kind of question, no problem, no problem. Sunim, if you can answer that question, your lunch is free. But if you cannot answer, I will not give you lunch even if you wanted to pay for it. Dongsan heard that, got really angry. Said, what? What kind of question is this? Old woman, ask me anything. So, the old woman said, the Diamond Sutra writes that past mind cannot get enlightenment, present mind cannot get enlightenment, future mind also cannot get enlightenment. So, Venerable, with what kind of mind will you be eating lunch today? So Dongsan was totally at a loss. First he got red, then pale, then gray. Totally, face lost every kind of energy. So he said, oh, I would like to see the next Zen temple nearby. Oh, no problem. The great Zen Master Yakshan is within walking distance. So Dongsan walked over there, and with Yangshan, they were talking, very friendly talk for hours, hours and hours. So it became very late. And late at night, Dongsan opens the door and wants to exit. go to his room, and it's pitch dark, totally, absolutely dark. And he says, wow, it's really dark. I don't think I can find my way without some light. So right away, Dongsan lit a little rice candle and gave it to him. It was rice paper with some wax in it and the thread. There was nothing special, nothing else there. And Dongsan takes it, holds it in his hand, and says, oh, thank you. With this light, I'll find my way. And that moment, Yangshan blew out the candle. And as his mind went back to total darkness, he attained enlightenment. Next day, he danced around the courtyard of the monastery and says, from now on, I will believe all the teachings of the Zen masters and great monks. He shook all the commentaries of the Diamond Sutra out onto the very ground of the temple yard, burned them, became a very strong Zen student. He attained enlightenment, and he became Zen master Dongsan. He is one of our forefathers. And when anybody asked him, what is Buddha? Just grabbed the stick and bam! Hit. No thinking. Cutting off thinking. They asked him, what is Dharma? Bam! Hit. Etc. So that hit brought people to the experience of enlightenment, even if for one moment. So, yeah, these days we don't do that. Not so many students would remain. Who knows? In the West, we would be sued. Anyway. This was the first half of the introductory, and I have to tell you it was the easier part. Like we began the series of our Dharma talks with individual karma. The first part of this Dharma talk was about individual direction, which is very easy for you to determine. You want to leave this place at any time, you can. You want to re-enter this place at any time, you can. Entering the cycle of incarnations on this earth individually, we don't know how that happened exactly. But leaving it is really beginning to depend on us. Individually. You want to totally attain liberation individually, you can. Now, let's think about more people. Your family, your friends, your township, your country, your hemisphere, or the entire population on earth. How quickly can we make a concerted effort? How quickly can we make a decision together? Very slowly. Very slowly. So it's wonderful that almost 20 people here, they understand the importance of Dharma. And they listen and try to practice. That's you. That's wonderful. But how many people really want to wake up on this earth in whatever way is possible? Because it's not just Buddhism and Zen which provides a way to awakening. How many people really want that? Very few. So the question is, before we talk about this collective direction of human beings, is that how much suffering do we need to make us want to wake up? Okay? There's a proportion here. Suffering, which is the source of awakening. It's not really the source, but it's an indirect cause for it. Just by suffering, you don't become Buddha. But suffering prompts you to ask the question, is this really necessary in this way? Is it really necessary to make wars, to make famine, to make the climate change, to kill one another, to put each other to prison, etc.? Is it really necessary? Do we have to do this? Or we can change it somehow with a kind of collective decision, not following somebody's idea, but really using our common experience, what it means to be human and what it means to live on this planet. So how much do we need? Now there is a teaching from Shakyamuni Buddha that a good student is like a good horse. only sees the shadow of the whip and already jumps. Not so good student is like a little bit lazier horse. You have to touch gently once. Then understand, oh, cannot afford to be lazy. There's the whip. We have a job to go. So we go. Next is the little dummy horse. Has to be hit once. And then is the very stubborn horse. Has to be hit many times. And then the very, very stupid, recalcitrant horse who has to be beaten until bleeds. Until he or she bleeds. And humanity is now bleeding. We have caused so much suffering on this planet that the planet is bleeding and humanity is bleeding from several wounds. How much do we need? We don't know. We don't know when people have this mind to stop. And I would like to draw our attention to another important concept, which is enough. The answer here is how much is really enough? So when we drink, how much water is enough? When we eat, how much food is enough? When we watch TV, how many hours do we need? How many hours of sleep do we need? How much do we have to talk to one another? Everything has a natural limit. We call that enough. In case of suffering, in the case of this really basic experience of impermanence, causality, and non-self, suffering, how much do we need? And most of you may say, oh, I already had enough. I really want to get out of it. I understand. But collectively, 6.6 billion human beings, did we all have enough? $6.6 billion humans. How much attachment do we need to our thoughts, to our emotions, and to our illusions to want to wake up? No one can tell. Only you can do your job as a human being. Each and every one of us. Awakening has an interesting quality. You cannot force it. When we talked about group karma and we structured various human institutions, monastery, schools, hospitals, offices, jails, every single institution has some significant group karma focused in that. Nobody ever stays in a monastery because they are forced to do so. It's a totally voluntary enterprise. Of course, enlightenment is not relegated to the monasteries. That's very important. But the real question is, how much do we really want to practice, attain enlightenment, and save all beings from suffering? How much do we want that? Because if we do not want that soon enough, in one way or another, with one wording or another, then 6.6 billion human karma will drag everything down. So we can break up our systems as they exist now. And you don't have to be a doomsday prophet to say that. It's enough to open the television, the newspaper, and look at the news. And if you go deeper, it's very sad. Most decision makers knew in the mid-70s that something's really wrong. Nobody did anything. Even when they could, even in areas of, economy, military spending, deforestation, etc., most people in the largest countries, in the developed part of the world, they understood. There was no change. So now, 30 years later, we are even deeper in this crisis, and we don't know how it will go on. There are very big question marks. And ourselves, we do not have a direct impact onto these decisions, although we seem to have the system where all the opinions can go up and all the decisions can go down. But you know how sealed these layers and these segregated boxes are. They are pretty sealed, pretty tight, and the real decisions are made by very few people. That's why it would be so easy to make things happen. And in fact, things happen pretty easily. I mean, wow, look at the changes of the last 5 years. They happened just like that, very quickly, mostly without a consensus, a larger consensus. So, at the beginning of the introductory, I said that we can truthfully say we don't know where we came from, and we also don't know where we go. The only clear thing we have is this moment. Practically, as a human group, we don't know how we can solve all these problems externally, in terms of technology, social decisions, etc. But one thing we know, without clear mind, it's not going to happen. As long as your mind is covered with anger, desire and ignorance, you're not clear enough even to see that the sky is blue and the trees are green. How could you fix bigger problems? How could you fix worldwide problems if the mind is not clear? So we can have another proportion here, because you can see it at the individual level as well as the small and large group level. And if the mind is clear, there is less suffering created. So clarity is really parallel with happiness and harmony. And as we said earlier, clarity has a lot more aspects, like wisdom, compassion, and strength. But it comes with this basic clarity of the moment, basic clarity of human consciousness. Because, in this case, ignorance and the result of that, anger and desire, they go down. They disappear. If the mind has attachments, illusions, and clarity goes down, then ignorance goes up, happiness and harmony disappears. And the root of ignorance, as we all know it, you can read the 12 links in the chain of dependent origination, and you can read Buddhist books, but even better, observe inside yourself. How did your current suffering begin, your unresolved problem? With one dualistic thought which you believed. You started to believe in good and bad, your happiness and harmony was lost. Familiar? That's how we lost the Garden of Eden. Okay? We can lose it moment to moment, and we can regain this paradise lost, as Milton wanted it so much, moment to moment. So this ignorance begins with one dualistic thought. One dualistic thought which you believe in. That's why it's in red. You identify with it. So I think that your opinion for you becomes reality. Okay? And when you put it all down and you do not attach to your opinions, then this one dualistic thought disappears. Then ignorance, anger, desire also disappear. Then clarity is restored, happiness and harmony also restored. And the favorite metaphor is that now, this year, the Pentagon's budget is over $500 billion. It's a staggering amount of money. You know how much help we could give to the planet and to human beings with this? Huge. In a few years, we could make most of the deserts disappear. We could reforest the Amazon. We could maybe find ways to take away carbon dioxide from the atmosphere or reduce it. I mean, human beings are very inventive. Why don't we find something to remove it from the atmosphere? We're going to get fried here in a couple of decades. Okay? Will it ever happen? No one knows. Don't be so sure of good and bad, okay? Otherwise you can subscribe to the Daily Prophet and read your destiny, as we'll talk about it next time. Okay? So don't read your destiny every day, because then that will be true. So think about what you can do right here, right now, to make your mind clear, open up to the world, to this suffering world, and attain our true substance to help. Because without it, we're ending up a pretty bad way. We'll go down an alley which has pretty bad scenarios on the way. Why bad? Because we don't want it. We're not going to be happy, trying to take care of millions and tens and hundreds of millions of impoverished and suffering people from wars, famine, etc. Okay? And I really want to stop the tape of bad scenarios, because that enters your consciousness and you believe that that's the way to go. No, that's not the way to go. Okay? Fortunately, Buddhism does not have a fixed past, present, and future. We make it. Like I said, because of our consciousness, we have 3 dimensions in space and 2 dimensions in time. Okay? It's very interesting. So take away your attachments to time and space. Take away your attachments to thinking. Return to this one moment. Attain this one mind. Then we can help this world. Okay? Any questions? Yeah.
Do you have to keep hope, or hope is one of the illusions?
Hope is sometimes necessary.
It's not an illusion? One
If-
of the illusions?
If you can make it happen, it's not an illusion. There is a difference between wishful thinking and a correct concept or action plan, how to correct things. So if you only hope, that remains a dream, a pipe dream. If you have a clear action plan, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then it's not a hope. But you can call it a hope. It's a plan for the future. Okay? So if you say, we can do it, or if you say, I can do it, that's hope. Can do mind. Halsu innen maum. Can do mind. That's hope. I cannot, I give up, that's no hope. So, can you do it?
And it happens.
Then you can make it happen. So first you have to believe in yourself. I can do it. And then you can make it happen. But if you say, I cannot do it, then your hands alone, your mouth alone, cannot. Because you don't believe in yourself. So attain your true self, then you can believe in it. So don't believe in your thinking as the absolute. Don't believe in your feelings as the absolute. That's not the absolute. We already talked about it. So if it's correct hope, you can make it happen because it comes from experience, the attainment of yourself, the attainment of truth, the attainment of function. So step by step, you can do it because you are rooted in reality. You're not following some dream, some impossible thought, some illusion. Some people call that hope too. But real hope is a correctly designed and devised action plan, what to do. And to have that, we have to have this direction clarified, which I talked about. So if the direction is clear and you believe in yourself, and we believe in our true self, then it can happen. If not, all hope is gone. Because we don't say we can do it. So first we have to find a way. Not delude ourselves, we can do it, we can do it. This is not a kind of self-hypnotizing course. First inside, look inside, find a way. Ask the question, how is it possible? Then you find a way, and for you it's already reality. You're not propounding some dream to yourself. You don't hypnotize yourself. That's not what I'm talking about. what's really meant here is look inside, because the mind has infinite resources. In fact, the whole universe is our resource. Okay? So look inside. How can we find a way? And for most problems, we already have found a way, except that we have not started walking on that path. So there are processes, there are ways, there are technologies, there are attitudes that can be helpful. We don't use them. Okay? So there is hope if you have a correct mind and the correct action. If not, if you say, we cannot, no hope. Okay? More questions?
You mean decision means illusion? Making a decision means illusion?
No, that's not what I said. What I said is when you follow your dualistic thought and your decisions are not rooted in reality, in real cause and effect, that's a dream. That's an illusion. So you can make an illusory decision. Like, for instance, you say that you, as you are now, you want to fly to the moon, and you say that I am flying right now. That's a decision. Like you say, I'm going to go by bus right now. You can do that because you walk down the stairs, you go to the Tanungot, to the bus stop, and you say, 172. Great. When it's coming, you step on, that's it. It's real. Say, where's my spaceship? I'm going to the moon right now. If you repeat this sentence too long, then people will call a nice white car with a green cross and will escort you inside. I will tell you a little joke how this is different. There are many kinds of fools, many kinds of craziness. Based on Sunim, Zen Master Sung San defined it in the most beautiful way. Somebody asked him, what is crazy? He says, mind 100% attached, 100% crazy. Not so much attached, not so much crazy. Not attached, totally not crazy. Okay? So if there's just a little reflection, then not crazy. Okay? Let me finish, I'm sorry. Then the joke comes after this. There's a hospital. And in the hospital, there's a special kind of crazy person who has a box, a cardboard box, and a string, just a rope. And he's pulling this cardboard box after himself and says, "Kitty, hello kitty, come on kitty, let's go for a walk, kitty," you know. And he's dragging this cardboard box after himself for many months. And he's getting his tranquilizer and food and bed and everything. So one day there's a big consilium, big doctor's visit, and of course the big guy comes and says, "How are you, number 172? Is everything all right with your little kitty today?" Then the patient says, "Well, doc, I realize this is not really a kitty. This is just a cardboard box. In fact, I'm kind of used to this, but it's really not necessary. You want to have it?" Then the doctors kind of look at each other and says, "Number 172 on probation or leave, sign this paper, please." You know how it works. So the guy is released, and just for some added security, they give him the cardboard box. Don't leave it here. And he leaves the hospital in his civilian clothing, carrying his bag, carrying the cardboard box, and right outside the hospital door, he shoves it on the ground, puts out the string again, ties it on the cardboard box and says, "Kitty, we really got them, right?" So that's how human behavior works. It's really crazy how much we believe in our illusions. For instance, in Europe, the biggest illusion that in the 20th century and also part of the 19th was the national states. We want to become sovereign, independent nation with an army, a navy, an industry, everything. Now, this kind of nationalistic thinking brought 2 world wars upon the world. Because one nation or other nations is we need more space. We need more earth, we need more land, we need more water, we need more oceans. It's ours, not yours. So based on this nationalistic sentiment, some possessive behavior started to rule, and this is just erased the current civilization as it was, and it had to be recreated on the ruins of the old one. Okay? So that's why many Westerners adopt Buddhism as their reference frame for thinking, or as their starting point for spiritual ventures, because they do not see the systematic, theistic or atheistic, scientific, artistic, all kinds of thinking, which can be characterized with one word, isms. We have an infinite number of isms in Europe, and they're equally unproductive, and they're equally hostile. So that's why I say, are you Buddhist? I'm not a Buddhist, I'm a follower of the path. Buddhism is the invention of Western science, religious science. In Korean, we don't have Buddhism, we have Pangbop, okay? That's Buddha's way, Puchanim Pangbop. So it's a very different concept. But, you know, Westerners, they started to read these sutras and say, oh, that's Judaism, Christianity, Catholicism, okay, Buddhism. So, but it doesn't work like an ism. It's not a thinking against another type of thinking. So, watch out for your thoughts because they can explode. So they exploded in crazy thinking, and that created wars, including 2 world wars. And that's why we don't want to repeat that. So when only the isms are the solution, people say, I'm sorry, I don't want to touch any of this. All of them would render me to, hello, come on, that you are my thinking. Come on, come on. So that doesn't work. How do we get kind of adults about this? How do we get mature and clear about this? So drop the isms. Put them down. Don't touch them. So that means a mind before or beyond or transcending dualistic thought. That's how important this is. So it's really not a fashion that we are wearing these clothes, you know. It's not a fashion statement. It's really something that we undertook out of a sense of responsibility, besides personal motives like suffering, etc., unanswered questions, etc. But if we don't do this, folks, this civilization goes down. Very bad. We don't know how far it will fall. But as the Heart Sutra says, things have no beginning and no end. It can fall indefinitely until we stop it. And how long, how far can it rise in its quality, in its clarity, in its happiness, every kind of positive value you want, also indefinitely. So the linear existence, as we think of in time, that we were from the past, traveling sometime to the present and then into the future, this linear thing is an illusion. It doesn't work like that we have a definite past, a very kind of fearful present, and a definite future which people can write and say, no, it's made up of our collective karma, the collective action, speech, and thought of humanity. That's what we make. It's also illusory to say that everything exists in terms of a cycle. So we have an endless amount of reincarnations and we have to incarnate on this earth or elsewhere, and we have to do this and do this and do this and do this until we finally get on the path of some enlightenment, of some gradual or sudden enlightenment, and then we start to lose this. It's also illusion. It doesn't exist. We make it. We make the notion of cyclic or linear existence. And if we had another dimension in our head, we would wake up to another form of our existence. But we don't need extra. Even what we have is too much, okay? So we can just put it down, put it down, put it down, and we can come back to the moment, to here and now. That's all we've got. That's all we've got. And funnily enough, this very little, which seems very little, is the strongest foothold for our practice, the strongest foothold for our existence. Okay?
We shouldn't judge something.
Differentiation is very important. Otherwise, this tea would not be tea, and this table would not be table. We distinguish. Because you cannot drink the table, and you cannot put stuff solidly onto tea. But discrimination is unnecessary because that's based on false views or ignorance. So calling the tea bad because it's liquid and calling the table good because it's solid is a mistaken view. And apply it in some parts of life where it's really not self-evident that these qualities are empty.